Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of the Plant-Free MD. I'm Dr. Anthony Chaffee, and today I have a very special guest, Kerry Mann from the Homestead How YouTube podcast. Kerry, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, you're very welcome. And for those who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I just hit day 86 of being a carnivore, and
Nice.
it's completely changed every aspect of my life. So when I started 86 days ago, I was 40 pounds heavier than I am now. But I had depression and anxiety and stomach issues. And my biggest issue I had was arthritis. I had horrible arthritis in my elbows, in my lower back, and in my right toe on my foot. They thought it was gout, but for about a year and a half, I had arthritis so bad. Last year, I could barely walk. Just putting any pressure down on it was just excruciating. It hurt really bad. And so I learned about carnivore online. I've been doing keto on and off for many years, and I've had some success with keto. But the other issue I had as well was sleep issues. So I had sleep apnea. I've been on a CPAP machine for years, and I had IBS, and I had acid reflux and sleep issues and depression and anxiety and way too many issues. When I start listing them off, people are like, man, you were a mess. And so I've been doing carnivore for 86 days now. Every one of those things I've described is completely reversed, and I'm feeling so much better now. People keep telling me when I run into people, they're like, hey, you look great. You lost so much weight. I'm like, that's nothing. That's like the tip of the iceberg. So many other things have improved so drastically. One of the biggest things too that I've noticed is just my brain, my cognitive ability. I feel like I was just kind of walking around in a brain fog before, and it's completely gone now. I mentioned on my YouTube channel to some folks, I watch Jeopardy every day for years now, and I'm just killing it now on carnivore before. It sounds unbelievable, but it makes sense because it's just in that haze and that brain fog before, and it's completely lifted now.
Well, that's amazing, man. So you're having health issues, and that's why you came to carnivore specifically to try to heal those, or what brought you to carnivore?
Specifically for the health issues. Yeah, I was trying everything. The worst issues I had was I have clinical depression, and for years now. So I've been on every SSRI, anti-anxiety medication as well. And none of those seemed to work for me. They just seemed to make me a little bit more of a zombie. I think it was about 10 years ago or so. I was in the sort of the darkest dark depression. It's kind of hard to describe to people if they haven't experienced depression before. It was just horrible. We have this woodshed, and there's no windows in it. I used to just go sit out there for hours just because I couldn't really be around my family because I was just so depressed. Wasn't sleeping at all. Had insomnia really bad. And that was around that time. I'm like, I went to doctors and I got medication, some SSRIs, and they're like, well, you can try these. You're going to have to give it 3 months to see if it does anything, which is kind of horrible to hear when you're kind of at your lowest low. But I tried that, and those didn't work. And then they're like, well, we'll up the dosage. You can go another 3 months. We'll up the dosage again. You can go another 3 months. And then, no, those pills don't work. Try another one. So I did that for like 2 years. And eventually I found keto. And when I went on keto, it was the only thing I ever noticed that started to lift the depression, but just slightly. Didn't get me fully out of the depression. And I did keto on and off for years. I had pretty good success. I lost some weight. At my heaviest, I was 80 pounds heavier than I am now. So I lost about 40 pounds on keto. And then, as I tell people, the hardest 40 pounds, the last 40 pounds I lost on carnivore over the last 86 days. But so I was kind of desperate for something. 86 days ago, I was overweight. I still had the depression and the anxiety as well. Doing something like this and talking with you, I would have never done 86 days ago. I used to have calls with clients, and I would literally be like, man, if I just crash my car into a tree right now, I can get out of doing this phone call, because I was just dread talking to people on the phone and meetings and things like that. But Yeah, so that was 86 days ago. I also had stomach issues, and the worst thing was the arthritis. And I tried a water fast, and that got me kind of close. Like, hey, I'm feeling good. I did a 3-day water fast, and then I had to eat again. Then I did a 5-day water fast. I mean, I was just desperate. I'm like, I'm going to try anything to get out of this depression, anxiety. And the other big thing was the arthritis in my foot. I'm like, maybe if I do this fast, something will clear up and it'll start feeling better. And it started around day 5 on the last water fast I did, started feeling a little bit better. But of course, I had to eat again. And then I went back to eating. I tried to be pretty clean and eat keto, but my issue with keto is I've been doing it for so long. I keep telling people nowadays, I'm like, you young kids have it so good with keto. Now you got all these keto products with the keto ice cream and the keto bread and tortillas. But now in retrospect, I'm doing carnivore. I'm like, that was so wrong. I think all of those keto products were just horrible for you. I think they were really messing me up too, because I still had really bad inflammation, sleep issues, and I would stall out on keto. Like I'd start out, I'd lose a little bit of weight, and I just, no matter what I would do, I just couldn't break through like the plateau on keto until I've gone to carnivore. And now on carnivore, it's, you could put it on a graph, the weight loss. There's no stalls, there's nothing. It's just, it's unbelievable.
Oh, that's amazing.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. But for those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Well, I'm really glad, and obviously, the most important thing is your health and your mental health. On as weight's great. Bringing that down. Obviously, that's very good in a lot of ways too. But I'm really glad that the rest of your health got better. I'm really sorry to hear that's awful. Situation to be in. It's not easy for anyone, especially when you've got family and things like that you have to look after. It makes it even more difficult.
Right. Yeah. And that's been the most eye-opening thing with carnivore is, so I don't have the depression anymore, but all of it's only been 86 days, but all of my relationships and things with my family, it's just completely different dynamic now. I wake up now and I'm almost jumping out of bed. Like for this meeting right now, it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm wide awake.
Jesus.
I'm ready to you wouldn't have been able to get me up. Like I probably would have been falling asleep around 3 or 4:30 with my insomnia and stuff. But I wake up now and I'm motivated and my mood is so much better and smiling all the time. It's just, it's crazy. I don't know, like the science behind it or whatever. If it's like, cause I'm getting better sleep, I'm sure that's obviously definitely helping, but it's gotta be something with, I don't think I was getting enough cholesterol before. It was demonized so much my whole life. I'm like trying to avoid it. Even when I was doing keto, it would be salad, vegetables, and then just a little thing of meat. And now I eat a big ribeye or something, and I feel amazing. It's like my body's like, dude, 42 years, you finally figured this thing out. I've got a big smile on my face every time I'm eating now, and it feels like an energy boost. Like back in the day when I still had caffeine, like you get this just boost of energy, but unlike caffeine, it doesn't die down. It's just the rest of the day. I'm not hungry anymore. I've got energy, and I'm getting more done now than I have my entire life. It's just, yeah, it's unbelievable. I tell people all these things and they're like, you're like the carnivore hype man. I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just, it's all true. And other carnivores, they're always like nodding their head and agreeing with me. But people that haven't tried it before, they think I'm exaggerating, or it's kind of unbelievable, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell people too. This is not out hypeable. Like, it doesn't matter how much I hype this up to you. Like, you're still going to feel it. And because you're going to feel better than you've ever felt in your entire life. And it's only going to take a couple weeks, get this stuff out of your system, start feeling really amazing and feeling as well as you should have been feeling the rest of your life. And then it keeps getting better. To your point about the mental health, Professor Chris Palmer from Harvard, he's a psychiatrist there, wrote a book called Brain Energy. And he talks about all this, and he talks about how he thinks that mental health disorders like major depression and even schizophrenia stem from a metabolic mitochondrial disease, and these mitochondria and your neurons are not working properly. So they're not firing properly. They're not turning on your neurotransmitters properly. And the signals between your brain cells are just not working. They're going slow. They're going too fast. They're getting screwed up in some manner or another. And when you think that you have hundreds to thousands of mitochondria in each neuron, and you have anywhere from hundreds of billions to trillions of neurons, you're talking, this is a huge compounding effect. And this is going to catch up with you. And we feel this as an expression of our mental health and energy and all these sorts of things, but it's our brain and our nervous system not working properly, among other things. And so when you stop eating things that are damaging your mitochondria, that like carbohydrates and high insulin does that, and it stops your body from recycling your mitochondria, making new mitochondria, making more mitochondria, when you eliminate these things, all of a sudden they work a lot better and your brain works a lot better. And it can take months to do that. So you're already seeing the effects, and you're already seeing the benefits of this. And the best part about that, it's going to keep getting better, because your mitochondria are still recovering. They're still getting replaced, and they're still getting increased in numbers. Usually after about like 3 months, on a just ketogenic diet, which, carnivore diet is and should be, you will, according to certain studies, have 4 times the number of mitochondria, and they're 4 times as effective. So there's a massive, massive, massive boost in their functionality and the functionality of your brain and your body as a result. So, the best part is keeps getting better.
That's awesome. I'm feeling it too. I did my 30-day update video, and I've been doing YouTube for 8 years. So I'm going to just do this one video on carnivore. And when I started carnivore, I'm like, this is insane. Like, you can't just eat meat. It's not going to work. But I'm like, I can do anything for 30 days. So I'm going to try this. And then I came across your videos. I'm like, man, this guy's been doing it for what, 10 years or longer now? And
well, off and off, like 5 years in my early 20s, and then I'm at like 5.5 years now.
Right.
Yeah, and for the second time.
Seeing other people doing it. So I'm like, I could do anything for 30 days. And that was going to be it. I was just going to do that one video. And the video really seemed to resonate with people. And so many people, this is what really amazed me. So many people commenting. The video has like 500,000 views right now, and so many comments. And the comments have been a lot from people I never would have expected. I get probably 20 comments a day on that video from people that are in their 60s, 70s, or 80s. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I can't imagine folks like that. I can't imagine myself in my 60s be like, I'm going to just change everything with my diet. I would have thought that I would have been stuck in my ways or something. These people are thriving on carnivore. And I'm running into people in my daily life too. I kind of jokingly say, I think they're carnivores in the closet. I went to get some dental work done, and the dental hygienist was saying, man, your gums, there's like no inflammation. They're not bleeding. I was like, wow. I've had gum issues my entire life. This was a couple of weeks ago. I went into that, and she's like, you wouldn't believe it, but everyone I look at, their gums are just bleeding and puffy. And she's like, that's inflammation. She said, when you see it in your gums, it's throughout the whole body, but it really shows up in the gums. So I was like, I started telling her a little bit more what I was doing. She's like, yeah, I'm pretty much doing the same thing on carnivore. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Been running into more and more people that have been doing it, but I think people don't like talking about it because everyone thinks you're insane. They think you're crazy. Then you got to explain it to them. But your point about things getting better and better, though, it's been exactly precisely my experience. I was going to do 30 days, and I'm like, why would I stop this now? Everything in my life is better. And I was just scratching the surface at that time. But the biggest thing for me, and I don't know if you've heard this or what your thoughts are on this, but I stopped snoring the very first day. And I hate telling people that because you're like, there's no way that's not possible. But I heard Dr. Jordan Peterson's testimony. He said he stopped snoring the first week. And I was thinking maybe it was because that first day I took a bunch of electrolytes and things that maybe I didn't take before. But I am a horrible snorer. Like I said, I had sleep apnea. And I'm not joking. Every night my wife would basically just punch me in the back and say, roll over, because I was snoring like a chainsaw every single night. And she was like, oh my God, you didn't snore last night for the first night. I just thought, oh, this is a weird coincidence. But in 86 days, I haven't snored one time, not one time. Sleep has just been amazing for me. So
Nice.
I was going to ask you that. I don't know. It sounds crazy like on the first day, and I don't want to get people's hopes up. I think everybody's different. I've done keto for years on and off. Maybe my genetics are a little bit different, but uh, is
Yeah,
there a lot
well,
of people with the snoring stopping quickly?
with the snoring stopping, certainly first day is pretty dramatic. That's a very good result. I mean, it comes from inflammation, and you're getting your soft palate in the back of your throat that's swelling up, just getting thicker and fatter, and that's sort of blocking off your airway, and you're getting obstructive sleep apnea generally, and that generally corresponds with snoring, or snoring is a precursor to obstructive sleep apnea. And so when that sort of big fat gummy soft palate, you're going to snore. And so obviously you were reacting to something to such an extent that just even getting rid of it for one day significantly reduced your inflammation, at least enough to stop snoring. And then obviously ongoing, the inflammation is going to reduce further and further from getting all those different chemicals out of your system and reducing the inflammation that way. And then also getting deeper and deeper into ketosis, and higher ketones actually suppress inflammation as well. And so all of those things, those factors will go into play. And so quite a lot of people do stop snoring, or can even put their obstructive sleep apnea into remission as well, which is fantastic, because that's horrible for your health. Your brain's not getting enough oxygen, and you sleep horribly, and you feel horrible in the morning, and it can set you up for a lot of future health issues as well.
Right. For years, I had snoring issues like that. And that's one thing, like you were saying earlier, people just got to kind of try carnivore, because I was snoring and sleeping poorly for so many years that it just kind of became my new normal. I'm like, this is just what it is now. And I don't know, someone said it before. It's like when you're in the fog, you can't see the fog. You got to get out of it. And when I got out of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what it's like to just feel normal, like a baseline. You can't describe it to people. You're absolutely right. They really they have to try it. I don't know how else to say it. One thing I worry about now, it hasn't happened yet, but 86 days on carnivores, I don't want this to be normal or take it for granted, just feeling this amazing and energized and waking up. Even like you mentioned with the sleep, that has been improving as well, getting better and better, as you said. I'll wake up sometimes now where it reminds me of when I was a kid and you'd sleep in on like a Saturday morning, and I'd wake up sometimes now and it just feels like my legs and my whole body actually fell asleep, and I'm just rejuvenated when I wake up. And that's been getting better. Like 2 weeks ago, I did a short on my YouTube channel. I had to pull out my camera and just record myself. I just had this overwhelming euphoria. I don't know what it was from either. Sometimes when I eat like a big steak, I got a big smile on my face, but I hadn't eaten anything. I was coming back from the grocery store, actually. I just felt just total happiness. That was like around day 70 or something. I'm like, what is going on here? So I had to share that with folks. But yeah, the mood's just been getting better. And I've heard a lot of people say similar. They're like, just keep going. It just gets better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it does. And, I know what you mean. Sometimes I think, that I'm just so used to feeling amazing all the time. It's just like I sort of take it for granted. And, do I think it was like, well, is it, am I still feeling as amazing as I did before? I mean, this is just sort of normal for me, but maybe things are getting, because you don't see that contrast. I'm like, oh my God, like I remember feeling awful, and now I don't feel awful, and I just feel amazing. So that's so much fun. Now I don't really remember what awful felt like. Right. It's been so long just feeling great, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just just feeling great all the time. And I still see the contrast when, maybe I'd be at a restaurant or, eating somewhere, and they'll put in some other sort of ingredients that I don't know about, or some spices, or, something like that. And I'm not, I don't want to be too, anal, I'm out somewhere and I ask them hey, just give it to me plain, but they have something on it, like, whatever. If I can scrape it off, I will. But, if it's like covered in sauce, then obviously I'm not going to do that. But, if there's just a little something in it, I'm not going to go too crazy, because it's very rare that I would go out to eat anyway. And so, maybe I'll eat that. And then as soon as I eat it, I'm like, yeah, I don't feel good. This isn't what I want. And, my face is itchy, and my asthma starts being weird. My nose gets runny, and I don't like it. And I don't feel my best after that. And so I can still see that contrast. And so every time I dabble, I guess, in something that sort of gets mixed in that I don't want, which is rare enough at this time, at this stage. I can see that contrast and I don't like it. And so it just keeps me really firm on that path. I speak to people and they say, it's really admirable. You have all this discipline. Like just today, we're in surgery and one of the medical reps, the device reps said, hey, I'm going to go do a coffee run, get you guys all coffee. What do you guys want? What do you guys want? And I was like, oh, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And everyone's like, oh, wow, that's, so much discipline, and I just pointed out, I was like, it doesn't really take any discipline, but I have no desire to have this stuff because it makes me feel worse. It makes me feel bad. So, so I don't enjoy it and it doesn't make me feel good. And so it doesn't actually take too much willpower to not want to do something that you don't enjoy and makes you feel bad.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I've had times over this last 86 days where I've almost forgotten to eat. And that's another thing that's hard to describe to someone that hasn't tried it before, but you don't have those crashes that I used to have when I was eating carbs and the cravings. Oftentimes I'll eat one big steak and that'll be it. Sometimes I'll have 2 meals a day, but very rarely. And to your point too, one of the things that I've found amazing about carnivore is there's so much more freedom too when you're not kind of beholden to your food. Before this, it was always, hey, what are we going to eat? What's going on for dinner? Going rummaging through like 900 ingredients in the kitchen cabinet. Like, we could do this one and do this one and this one. It's so much time wasted. Now I cook a big steak and that's it. And there's so much freedom. It's a weird thing to describe to people, but it's kind of very liberating, not being beholden to your food anymore. And kind of there's two aspects to it too, because it's kind of like breaking free from an addiction where now I'm in complete control. I said that on my 30-day video. My wife and I recently purchased our small town movie theater here. And I love movies, so I keep doing these movie references, but there's that Captain Phillips one where I'm the captain now. And that's what it feels like with carnivore. Like I'm the captain now, I'm in control of things now, where before I wasn't. It was always the food controlling my decisions and what I'm going to do. So once you have that too, and you're in control, it translates to everything else beyond the food. All the decisions I'm making, everything else, just much more improved on carnivore.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I feel the same way. And I think that a lot of people do is you do feel much more in control. You feel much more in control of your body and your health. You're coming off medications. That's always very empowering. And not being beholden to food, not having to eat multiple times a day, not having to be put out of sorts or feel unwell if you don't get the food when you need it, when you want it, and not being really, a slave to our passions. You just go out there, you cook a steak, get it over with, and you actually go and do things, and you get to actually live your life. The cleanup, I think that's a big one. I hate cooking all these ingredients. Like I remember, I learned to cook from my mom, who's an amazing cook. But, when I was out living on my own, all I sort of ate was just pieces of meat anyway, because, it was like, I need, 13 different things or more sometimes for certain recipes. And that's how you made that recipe. And you need different ingredients for every other recipe that you do. So you had to have this massive pantry, whole bunch of stuff, fresh and dried. And that just sounded awful to me. And, so you're getting all these things. They're not all that cheap when you're talking about having to buy 100 of these things, and sort of all adds up. And so I ended up, basically, I would still just cook meat. Like that's all I cook. And if I had a recipe, I picked like one recipe and I just that was the same thing I cooked like every single night, and like it was the same one. It was like, nope, I have the ingredients for this. This is what I'm going to do. And that's it. And now I don't have to do any of that. I don't have any of the cleanup, don't have any of the prep. And I much prefer that. And people talk about, it's like, oh, well, I want to make this carnivore bread or this or this, that. And you can, there are ways of doing that. And it's sort of nice to have that and or at least have something that feels like bread that you can sort of make a sandwich with. That's sort of convenient and nice. But my God, the amount of cleanup, like the kitchen's just a disaster afterwards. And And you look at that and be like, that was not worth it. That was not worth it. The almost bread was not worth the next 2 hours of cleaning this is going to take.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the other things too is I keep getting this comment from people. I could never afford carnivore or eat steak like you do. And it's cheap. I'm running the math on it. I think it's probably half of what I used to pay before when you account for all those ingredients and everything you mentioned. Plus people, they're coming at it from the wrong mindset. They're thinking like, I tell people that comment on my YouTube videos that I'm like, listen, before this, there's breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're probably going to Starbucks. You're probably dropping $10 right there. And then after breakfast, you always like 2 hours later, you have that crash because your sugar's just going crazy and you got to have your little granola bar snack or whatever, maybe some fruit in the afternoon, dessert, beer, wine, drinks, out to eat. I'm like, I do none of that now. I'll have a big expensive steak, but it's way less than what you're probably doing. I think a lot of people aren't really honest with how much they're spending on the standard American diet, especially when you account for all of those different ingredients that they're putting into it. And I'm probably paying half of what I was, but I'm eating 100 times better, like way better. I eat a little bit, I'm full, and it's giving my body exactly what I need. And I'm having all these health benefits because of it. So I get a lot of people with that excuse. Oh, I'd like to do carnivore, but I just can't afford it. And I'm like, I don't think you're being honest with yourself or doing the proper math anyways.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I point out as well is that you can get an absurdly priced steak, obviously, but most steaks and certainly ground beef is cheaper per pound than spinach. In fact, a lot cheaper,
Wow.
It's just that, we buy 3 ounces at a time and it's $5. Oh, well, I'll get that instead. It's just like pound for pound steak is cheaper, And
there's no waste. That's the other big one people don't account for. Man, the amount of waste I used to do on the standard American diet with the spinach or lettuce or whatever, like I'm gonna have a big salad and there's always some left that went brown or some lettuce that went brown that ends up getting tossed. There's zero waste on carnivore. I'm holding just a little bit of bone, but even that goes in for bone broth. So it's no waste at all.
And what happens with the steak if it's been sitting there too long? It's now aged. You've just aged your steak even better. Obviously you can let it spoil, but then and some people are into that too. Who knows?
Right.
I haven't done that. Have you tried that high meat sort of thing? Rotten meat? Probably.
No. I had a couple people ask. Haven't tried that yet, but hey, I'm open for anything. The biggest experiment I've had recently was we have a smoker here, and pre-carnivore, I used to smoke a lot of food, but there was always the sauces and the rubs with sugar and all sorts of junk in it. So 86 days on carnivore, I'm like, I don't want to use the smoker anymore because it's just, you got to have a rub or a sauce. Anyways, about a week ago, I did, I reverse seared a steak on the smoker. Nice. No sauces, no rubs. It was 2 hours low and slow. It was an expensive steak, but it was a treat. I can't remember. I think it was every 10 days or so, like, oh, it's day 80. I got to go get a big steak and reward myself. No, I was like, Costco, they had they had this thick ribeye. It was like this thick. And I'm like, there's no other really good way to cook it, but low and slow. So I cooked it low and slow for maybe 2 hours, and then I reverse seared it on cast iron skillet. It's kind of ruined things for me because it was so good. Every time I make a steak now, I'm like, oh, maybe I should break out the smoker. And it kind of goes against what we were talking about earlier, but like taking a bunch of time but it's kind of easy. You just throw it on the smoker. I've got a little Bluetooth thing, so I don't even have to watch it. Once it hits 125 internal temperature, it dings me on my phone, and then I throw it in the cast iron skillet. But that's been my new go-to with myself and my daughter, Emma. Kind of interesting story there, but she was a vegan. She's only 15 years old. And I don't know how I allowed this to happen or how it happened, but she became a vegan 5 years ago when she was 11. She's almost 16 now. I thought it was going to be a fad. She watched a documentary or some show or something on TikTok, some videos where they were treating animals horribly. And I watched it too, and it was horrible. I explained to her, I'm like, not everybody treats animals that way. There's animals that are treated much more humanely, but I wasn't about to just say, now go eat some chicken or meat or something that day. I figured, let's just let this settle for a bit. Maybe she'll do this for a couple of days. And it turned into a couple months and a couple of years. And so she was vegan for 5 years. And well, the interesting thing is 2 of my daughters now. So I have triplets plus 1. Emma's one of the triplets.
Wow. Nice.
And my plus 1, Lily, she just turned 18. She just graduated. But she had open heart surgery when she was 13. She had a couple blood clots afterwards, and she's always had for 4 or 5 years now. She had this really bad skin condition called HS. And I guess for people out there listening, it looks kind of like acne, but she had a really bad case of it. Kind of like inflammation, looks like acne, but it was all over her chest and back. It was horribly painful for her. And over the last 4 or 5 years, my wife and I took her to several dermatologists. At this point, it's been 4 or 5 all over the state, spending thousands of dollars. And the first one we went to, they're like, well, try this cream. Let's see if that works. And it did nothing. The next one was like, well, try these pills. They're going to mess her up a little bit, but hopefully that'll work. And that did nothing. And the third one said the same thing. And then the fourth one, this was just a couple months ago. And Lily she was in so much pain. She came to her mom and myself just crying at one point. She's like, I'm going to kill myself. Like, this hurts so bad. It's been years now. Nobody's doing anything. And I'm just every day, like, she's just not really doing much because it hurt her so much. And I felt so bad for her too, because this poor kid's already been through open heart surgery, and she almost died of some blood clots 2 years after that. So she's just had a bunch of health issues. This last dermatologist said to her, we've tried everything else. There's this injection we can give you. However, it's going to basically shut down your immune system. Jesus. And then you could have all sorts of other issues. And I'm like, this is nuts. I'm like, she's had open heart surgery. She had 2 blood clots that almost took her life. And now we're going to shut down her immune system when nothing else you guys have suggested ever worked. And so that was one of my reasons I wanted to go on Carnivore too. Like, it took a lot for me to get on Carnivore. I saw some videos. I watched a bunch of your videos and other videos out there. But one of the convincing things was I saw Michaela Peterson's video and all of the things that have been resolved for her with arthritis and other issues. She really reminded me of my daughter, because Michaela did it when she was younger. And so that was the other reason I wanted to do Carnivore. I'm like, I could kind of be a guinea pig, test this out on myself. I could do anything for 30 days. And if I'm getting some really good results, bring my inflammation down, maybe that'll help Lily, and then she can try it. And so after about a week on Carnivore, I told Lily, I was like, this is nuts, these results. I stopped snoring on day 1. And even in a week into it, I don't think this is the case for everybody. Maybe it's my genetics or because I've done keto, but I was seeing so many results just that first week. And so I said to Lily, I was like, listen, I'm not telling you like you should go eat meat for 30 days, but I am convinced that something you're eating is causing that HS. It looks like inflammation. It's like you're inflamed from something you're eating. So I'm like, let's just look at it like an elimination diet, try it, see what happens. But I'm like, you're 18, you can do whatever you want. I'm not forcing you. And she was seeing my results, and she decided to jump on and do it. And long story short, it was day 8. Almost half of her back was cleared up on day 8.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's like a miracle. Like I was literally, a tear came, because it's like, we tried everything. And then I got angry after that, because I'm like, all these dermatologists, not one dermatologist said, maybe it's just your diet. And now in retrospect, I feel so foolish about it, because it's just like, yeah, like if you're allergic to peanuts, you're eating peanuts, you're going to have a rash, or maybe your throat will close up, or you're going to have a reaction. She was just having a reaction to some horrible food that she was eating before. We eliminated it and it's gone. It's like so simple. But when you talk to the dermatologist, I've had this experience because I've had so many health issues, as I mentioned earlier. They never look at the nutrition. It's just the only option is what pill or cream or something can we throw at it. And for myself too, I actually did a YouTube video. I have them sitting on the corner here. I have all my pills from the last 10 or 15 years in a big bin like this high. Mm-hmm. Almost every one of those pills never helped me. And now on Carnivore, I don't need them before, but every one of those, like just one example, acid reflux, they gave me medication for that. And I don't even think it ever helped. Like maybe sometimes it's like, okay, I get a little bit of relief, but then the next day it's back. And then I got to keep getting refills. It's like, how is this working if I got to keep refilling it over and over again? And now on Carnivore, 0 acid reflux. I don't need any more pills for it or anything like that. But yeah, with Lily, it really upset me, because I'm like, this poor kid's been through everything and no one's mentioned that. I'm like, I feel foolish, but then I'm like, well, they're the doctors. We're trusting them and their expertise. But I remember talking to a couple of them too, where it's just like, this is just like some unexplainable thing. Like, teenagers get acne and this thing just kind of happens. There's just nothing you can do about it. I'm like, that's false. It's just not true. And so that was day 8 for Lily. She went on to do Carnivore with me for 30 days. It's almost completely gone on her front and back. her face cleared up. She came out of her room like around day 25, and my wife and I looked at each other and like, she looks like a completely different person, because she had some acne in her face too. That was gone. But you get this, you have it, I have it, other carnivores have it. I don't know what you call it, but it's like the carnivore glow, like the Zen or something. I'm like, she's got the carnivore glow now. I'm like, look at her. She's got, I see it. I've been talking to so many carnivores, just through YouTube and online and groups and stuff like that. And it seems like every carnivore person I'm talking to, they have that glow and that Zen. And there's always just something about it. I keep having these carnivore epiphanies. And I was thinking about this morning, like, what is it that just every carnivore person I'm talking to, they're just, I resonate with them. I just like them. They're like good people or something. I think one of the things is it takes a lot of bravery to become a carnivore, right? Because you're going against everything you've ever been told. Like, don't eat vegetables, just eat meat. Like, I thought meat was going to kill me. So I think people that have that attitude, or the bravery to decide, like, screw it, I'm going to just do it. They resonate well with me or something. And then I got to give you so much credit, because you had the bravery to do it yourself, but you're a doctor. Being a doctor doing it, you're going against everything. So I really appreciate what you're doing and what some of the other carnivore doctors are doing. I wish there were many more. I'm hoping that maybe 15, 20 years from now, we all look back and be like, what the hell were we thinking back then? This is insane. And maybe more people will be on board. But the biggest thing is just the fact that you go to the doctor and they never talk about nutrition. I really hope that will change at some point.
Yeah. And what's worse is that, normally people say that, as that's a negative thing. If a doctor's not talking to you about your diet and your lifestyle and things that are going on, and they're just trying to push a pill at you, that's not a good doctor. But then when doctors do that, then people say, well, you're not a nutritionist. You don't have any business saying that. You don't have any right to say that. And that's absurd. Of course it is. A doctor's about being, or physician, I should say, is about being, is about healing people and getting people better. And I mean, that's all the way back from possibly Hippocrates. Let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. It starts right at the beginning. There was an old ancient Egyptian saying that said, half of what you eat feeds you and half of what you eat feeds your doctor, right? Because half of what you're eating is making you sick, and then you have to go pay the doctor, and that feeds him. So you're putting food on his table by being sick, because you're just eating something that you shouldn't, or too much. And so, they knew this, and we knew this, and there were tons of books and papers and everything like that being done on this. And we still knew this, and the same idea was there. But then when everyone vilified fat and cholesterol and saturated fat, that same idea of, hey, it's important what you eat that has a significant impact on your health was still there. It was just directed in the wrong direction. And so if you push the party line and say the same things that have been getting everyone fatter and sicker than we've ever been in human history, that if you say all that, well, then that's okay. Oh yes, that's what a doctor's supposed to say. Oh yeah, cut out meat, cut out red meat, low fat, high veggies, all these sorts of things. But as soon as you break from that and say, hey, actually, this isn't working, and this isn't working for my patients, and you have a dermatologist who's just like, Jesus Christ, I have no idea what's going on here, but hopefully, you guys have gone back to them and say, hey, this is what it was. She was reacting to the food that she ate. She went on an elimination diet. We don't know what it is, but it's gone. We don't know what she was reacting to, but it's not there anymore. So there's something there. And so think about that for your next patients, and doctors who then see that evidence for themselves, either from that example or from something else, and then say, hey, here's some advice. It's a little unorthodox, but I've seen it work. Those people get absolutely crucified. And so, it's difficult. It's difficult for people to stick their neck out. There have been doctors in the US and Australia and the UK, and I'm sure many other places that have had their medical license come under attack, because people said, well, you're not a nutritionist. You're not allowed to be giving nutritional advice to your patients, even though it was helping their patients. And there's a gentleman, Dr. Unwin, in the UK, and he's a general practitioner, family medicine practitioner. And he either from self-preservation or just to show what he's doing. But I think it's probably a good protection for him from the powers that be. He's putting people on ketogenic diets, like a carnivore diet, high fat meat based diet, no carbohydrates, and he's putting type 2 diabetes into remission, a lot of other issues into remission, and he's cataloging this, because he's like this costs. These medications and issues cost a certain amount of money to the public healthcare system, which the taxpayers pay for over there, and it's a lot of money. It's tens of thousands of dollars a year for every diabetic patient, and he's put all these people into remission just by changing their diet, which they do at home with their own budget. And so he has this stuff, in published format, saying like, this is how many millions of pounds I'm saving the government and the taxpayer every year. This is what I'm doing. So I think that, that's a very good protection for him. But, other people are doing it too. Dr. Sean Baker was doing this. He was saving people from having to get surgeries, but, his practice didn't like that because that wasn't bringing in as much money. So they tried to get him out, and so they attacked him and tried to attack his license, which didn't work. But, it puts that stain on it. Now people say, well, look at these carnivore people, they got problems with their license. They just were bad doctors. And so now they're pivoting over to somewhere else. That's all this is, which is really just a ridiculous thing to say. It's very ignorant and childish to make those sorts of claims. And they're not true either. And, and there was, Dr. Gary Fettke did the same thing. He was in court cases in Australia for years, and it went all the way up to like their Supreme Court, and just on whether or not a doctor could give dietary advice. And he was saving the public healthcare system millions of dollars by avoiding joint replacements and major surgeries and operations because people were putting their arthritis or getting their arthritis into a manageable state that they didn't need joint replacements, and they didn't need all these really expensive treatments and surgeries.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just gonna say that was me. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the arthritis in my foot, that was it. They were like, they're gonna do surgery on my foot.
Yeah.
Don't need surgery anymore. It's completely better. I was hobbling around for a year and a half. It hurt so bad. I had so much arthritic fluid in the toe, but yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's fantastic. And that's the thing, people are getting better. And for some reason you do that for people, you actually get them better. And you do it with just normal interventions. It's not some secret tincture or pill or magic potion or expensive supplement or anything like that. It's free. It's just information. You're just avoiding eating certain things that, as we discussed earlier, probably more expensive anyway. So it's cheaper for everyone, and everyone wins except the drug companies, which I'm fine with. I'm okay with that. And for some reason, that makes you a bad doctor, and that makes you someone beneath contempt and someone who's not allowed to give dietary advice. But if you tell everyone that seed oils are okay, sugar is just an empty calorie, it's not all that bad. And there's an article that just came out. I just saw it. It really pissed me off. It said you should give your kids cake and ice cream and that sort of junk food in order to teach them about self-restraint and how to eat a healthy diet. It's like, what in God's name is this about? Wow. It's the most underhanded attempt at basically addicting kids to sugar that I've ever seen. They're like, hey, give your kids a bunch of sweets and candies and cakes, get them addicted, and then teach them how to abstain. No, okay, all right. So shove some cocaine in your nose, do some meth, and then we'll teach you how to abstain. No, you're going to addict a lot of people, and they're going to want to keep doing that. That's ridiculous. You teach them healthy eating habits from the beginning. You say, this stuff is nasty as a treat sometimes, maybe, but this is not something that you should ever really have, and really just avoid it. It's just like smoking cigarettes. You do that every now and then. It's okay. Okay, fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, but why would you start if you don't aim to finish? If you just want to smoke one cigarette once a year, why smoke any?
Right.
And people ask me, oh, will you have some cake or some cookies, just every now and then, just on a special occasion? And it's like, no. I was like, do you do meth? And they're like,
right.
No. And I was just like, oh, really? Not even on your birthday? Not even on a special occasion? And they're like, no. It's like, right. I don't want that in my body.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I am so on the same page as you. I look at sugar and carbs like that. I was addicted. It was like a
Mhm.
drug. I know they say on an MRI it lights up like you're taking a hard drug or whatever, but
Yes.
I really think we're going to look back 20, 30 years from now and be like, what were we doing? Like feeding kids sugar, and can't you go to grandma's house? She's like, here, have some cookie. It's like you're giving the kid basically an addictive drug. I really would love to see, could you imagine the next generation of kids if they were all just carnivore and they weren't on the
So
sugar? Like
awesome.
what a world it would be. It'd just be amazing. Because I hear some of the carnivore doctors, like Dr. Barry, for example. I was just thinking, man, one of my biggest regrets, I wish I could go back with my children and feed them like he's feeding his children. Just the changes I've had in these 86 days, the cognitive ability and the mood and everything. Um, I think that's why you see little like the terrible twos and kids throwing temper tantrums and things like that. It's like if you're giving them little juice boxes and sugar and then they're up half the night and they wake up, they're exhausted. It's like, it's not the kid's fault. He's 2 years old. I think a lot of the carnivore kids that are 2 years old aren't behaving that way, but yeah, it's crazy. I'm the same way too. I have a lot of people on my YouTube channel saying, do you ever cheat? Are you ever going to cheat? Not once in 86 days. I have no desire to, because it's just like you said. I look at it like I was addicted to heroin before. And after 42 years of taking it every single day, I stopped and my life is a million times better. Why would I be like, oh, I'm just going to have a cheat day on Saturday, just have a little bit of heroin on Saturday and just,
Yeah.
why? For what purpose? It doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm never cheating. I just did a YouTube video. I'm like, I just had this realization, like, not only am I never cheating, I'm like, I'm never going to have a grain of sugar again or any processed garbage again, ever. There's no point. Like, why would I? There's no need. I feel so much better without it.
Yeah.
But,
And that's like, it's like, oh, do you ever cheat? Do you ever do that? It was on Carnivore or whatever. It's like, do you ever cheat on your wife? Oh, well, no. Well, what about on your birthday? What about just a hooker on Christmas, or, just something
right.
special, just for you, I mean, oh, come on, you can't be that strict and just only be with your wife. I mean, come on,
Right.
you paint, you extend this out to their logical extension, and you show the absurdity of a statement like that, and people are like, well, that's not the same thing. And it's like, well, it's breaking a promise to yourself, and that's something that a marriage is, and a committed relationship, but also it's doing something that's harmful to yourself that doesn't need to happen. You get some modicum of enjoyment out of it, but is it worth it? Is it worth the detriment? A cookie once a year, I don't think that's going to change your trajectory in life. You know what I mean? Like I just, it's not like overall health. You're going to recover from it, but what's the point? You start with one, and that's going to start to, make an excuse once, you'll make it 1,000 times. If you have a cookie now and so you have birthday cake on your birthday. Well, now it's my wife's birthday. Well, it's our anniversary. Well, it's my kid's birthday. And then it's my friend's birthday. And then Dan from the office and in accounting, it's his birthday. And, there's always a birthday. There's always a reason. There's always an occasion. And if you just don't do it at all, it makes it much easier to just, not do it in other times. And then you don't miss it. You're not missing out on something. If you sort of keep that lingering around in your life, then it's something that you're missing. It's something that you don't have, and you're stopping yourself from having, but that you want. And you're much more likely to sort of go off the rails. And also, you're just not happy. You're not enjoying the time. You're thinking about that drug, sugar, that you want, and that you're not letting yourself have. I don't think that's a way I really want to live. And that's the thing. We do treat food like we treat drugs. Drugs, we do drugs, for the effect, and tell ourselves it's not all that bad. We're doing it occasionally. It's not a big deal. We know it's bad for us, but we don't think it's that bad for us. And it's every now and then. And, and we like the effects so much that the damage down the road is worth it, or we think it's worth it. It's not worth it. And that's the same thing we do with food. Well, okay, even when people were eating meat and ice cream and thinking that was unhealthy, right? They were still doing that. Oh, well, I'll have a steak, but steak's bad for me, but whatever. I've got to die of something, and I'm just going to enjoy myself. So that's a bad attitude, right? That's the same attitude. You like that taste and that flavor and that something, but you are already saying, okay, this is going to hurt me, and I don't care. I respect the fact that, a lot of people went plant-based because they were told to go plant-based, and they avoided meat because they were told to avoid meat and this was healthy for them. I think that's a good, I think that's a good mindset, that you're trying to do something healthy for your body. I just never bought that. I never bought that at all. I sort of was, on board with the fat side of thing, but like just meat in general, I never for a second did I think that was bad for you. And so, I never really, I didn't think that I was doing something bad for myself, but even the fat thing, when I went carnivore, I was still cutting off the fat. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. What am I doing? The fat's not bad for me. Eat the damn fat. And like, that was all garbage. And so, now that I know what's bad for me, and I know how bad it is for me, I have no interest. I have absolutely no interest.
Yep. Yeah. I'm the same way on the plant-based stuff too. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but my other daughter, Emma, she's been a vegan for 5 years, and she dramatically, like I never would have imagined this happened, but 36 days ago on my day 50, she decided she was completely done with it. Honestly, I think she was tapping out. She was very strict vegan, and at the end there, she was just eating like 2 cauliflower at night, and that'd be it. She's have some salad here or there. She was a mess. She was, her mother and myself, we just kept telling her, you got to get protein. You got to do this, like for years. And we would do it. She's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll have next meal. I'll do it. But she never was. And she was so fatigued. She'd come home from school and it'd be like 5:30. She'd be in her bed. And she decided, I keep telling people on my YouTube channel, I'm like, because Emma, her name's Emma, she wanted to be in a couple of the videos, kind of be accountable and share her story. So she on her own actually recorded herself eating for the first time. She had hard-boiled eggs. That was her first kind of intro away from it. She actually started crying. It was kind of interesting watching. I was so emotional for her after 5 years of not eating anything. And then the next day she had a piece of bacon, and it was like a light switch went off. Like you could just see the color come back in her, the energy. She was eating it. We're all just sitting there. Like it got really quiet in the room. We're just like waiting for her reaction. She's like, wow, this is really good.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, really? Compared to cauliflower?
Yeah.
Really? Big shocker there. And then eventually, we actually did a YouTube video together. I'm like, I'm going to spoil her a little bit. The first steak she had, we went to a very expensive steak restaurant. I'm like, you've been vegan for 5 years, kid. You've deserved this. You've earned this. And yeah, so she's been doing it for 36 days now. And for her too, to see going from plant only to this, it's there. You can just look at her and see everything has changed for her too. Her energy, her hair is like healthier looking. It was all brittle and dried out before. She's a teenager. She's 15. So she has quite a bit of acne that's been clearing up in the last 36 days. It's almost gone now. She's got a little bit left, but
that's amazing.
It's amazing. I would never have thought that I would see this kid who's been eating cauliflower every night having a ribeye with me. So that when I was mentioning smoking steaks the other day, Emma and I have been doing that together now, and man, we can cook up some really good steak. I'm like, we've gone to steak restaurants here or there. I'm like, I could just do it so much better myself at home. Like, I'm not trying to be egotistical about it or anything, but I'm like, I eat so much steak now, and you go to like a steakhouse, I rarely get one like that's this thick, and they're gonna like slow smoke it and then reverse sear it. But yeah, so my whole family, the whole dynamic's changing now. My wife too was vegetarian, the same amount of time Emma was, and she's switching over slowly. I keep saying you're gonna be carnivore, and I'm not pushing her at all, but she started doing keto, and she ate some turkey and chicken for the first time. This was about 2 weeks ago.
Nice. So
I'm trying not to push anybody. I don't think you can really change anybody. I'm just putting my example out there. And that was totally the case with Emma too. I said, you got to eat more protein. You got to get more nutrition, but I didn't say, hey, you got to eat a meat only diet like your dad is. She just saw my example and all the changes I was having. It was like, let's just do it. But yeah, we actually did this thing. I've got this shirt on, compassionate carnivore. So I told Emma, this is one really cool thing with her. When she first started eating meat and steak, she will not eat anything unless she knows precisely where it came from and that it was treated humanely. And I'm all for it too. I think some of the animal practices, I think it's rare, but some of those are horrible. I don't want to eat like a piece of meat if it was treated inhumanely, I guess. And most of our meat, we're very fortunate. We have a farmer, our neighbor, and we get grass-fed beef. We drive by it every day, and we buy it all from them. But yeah, Emma and I came up with this shirt, and we're putting together a documentary on carnivore, and so we've been selling this shirt, but every single penny from the shirt goes towards the documentary. So we want to do a documentary movie that follows real carnivores, kind of like I was saying. I don't want to tell anybody like you should do carnivore. I just want to say, look, here's the example. The biggest reason I want to do the documentary is because I just wish I knew about this 15, 20 years ago when I was in my darkest depression. I can't imagine what my life would be like because I lost so many years. I hate having regrets, but I lost so many years. Like the relationships I'm having with my kids and family now, if I could have had that with them when they were younger, I wasn't even present. I was just in a brain fog and depression, and I just wasn't there for them. So I know there's other people out there, and hopefully a lot of them are finding your YouTube videos and other people's YouTube videos. But I think that's such a small subset of people that are interested in carnivore that also happen to be on YouTube a lot. So I think maybe we can reach more people if we could get on one of those streaming services. That would be amazing. But my wife and I have a bunch of experience with video work. And so we're like, let's just shoestring this together and see what we can do. But I want to do the best job we possibly can. And I want to follow people that are doing carnivore for obesity, but also reversing type 2 diabetes or the horrible depression and anxiety I have, or the stomach issues. I know you've done quite a bit with stomach issues. I was actually diagnosed with Crohn's at one time. I think I was misdiagnosed, but are you still doing stuff with folks with IBS and Crohn's and things like that?
Yeah, basically anyone who wants to optimize their health, I'm happy to work with, and especially if, sort of a dietary dynamic. Obviously, my main focus is in neurosurgery, but I do have one day a week while I'm in a private practice where we do preventative medicine, metabolic health. We try to optimize people's health, and we'll have a lot of weight loss patients there, and people that have gone to their doctors and they don't feel great, and they do the normal blood tests and they sort of see, everything's in the sort of a normal range. So I guess you're okay. Can't see anything. Don't know what's going on. And so you're fine. And they know they're not fine. They know something's going on. And then maybe they're like a borderline case. And so, I'll see them and we can sort of tease things out by looking at things that's slightly different, looking at reference ranges of actual health and actual healthy people, as opposed to reference ranges of the average for the community. And the average person is sick. So that's not really a good thing to look at. And you can tease out more subtle presentations before they become like a major issue. And then, as people have sort of heard about what I'm doing here and other doctors in the area, they refer people in with autoimmune issues and things like that to try and address things with, diet and lifestyle sort of interventions, as opposed to just getting plagued with pills and medications. So yeah, I do have a number of patients with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have 3 Ehlers-Danlos patients. This is a connective tissue disorder that you have hypermobile joints and you get joint dislocations, skin's all stretchy and not as tough. And even they seem to get better. I don't know exactly why. Ehlers-Danlos, they don't make collagen. There's different kinds of Ehlers-Danlos, but they generally don't make collagen properly, and so it's just not as strong. And so my guess is that they're getting all the building blocks for collagen. They don't need to make it, de novo from scratch, and so they're just actually now having access to healthy, strong collagen. They're just using that and using those building blocks to make their collagen. And, after a few months, they're sort of replacing the collagen in their tissue and in their joints. And all of a sudden they're not having joint dislocations. They're not having pain and soreness and all these sorts of things that they commonly see. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing the difference this makes in people's lives.
That's got to be so rewarding for you to be able to, you're literally changing people's lives forever. Like what other, what else would they have done? They're probably at the end of the road there too, trying to figure out something to fix it. Wow.
Yeah.
What is your schedule like? I can't even imagine. So you're doing this and the neurosurgery and YouTube and everything. We were kind of joking earlier, but is it just like, oh, it's no problem. I'm a carnivore. I can do it.
The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm a carnivore. So with neurosurgery, it's very busy. So it's, I mean, a normal week can be 80 to 90 hours. Right. And then because you're doing overnight on calls at least twice a week, and maybe you'll get to sleep. Maybe if you're really lucky, you only get woken up a couple of times with phone calls. Most often you're getting harassed. The phone is just nonstop ringing. And that's if, you're not going in and to see a patient or have some sort of problem or doing surgery or multiple surgeries, but you've already worked all day. We've been in there since, 5:36 in the morning, and then we're there until 7, 8 at night. Your overnight on call starts at 6 p.m. So you're not even done with your day work and you're already getting hammered with the nighttime stuff coming on. And, and then you could be doing that all night. And then you don't go home the next day. You don't get a day off. You certainly don't get multiple days off. You're back at work. And you just have to keep going. I've slept on the floor of the office in the hospital more than once because there aren't beds available necessarily for people to sleep there overnight, or if they are, they're all taken. And maybe only have 30 minutes, before, as I finished, doing surgery or seeing patients, and I need to be rounding in an hour or half an hour. And it's just like, driving home and going to bed and then having to get up and go, like, I'm going to lose 20 minutes of that time, half an hour of that time. Like I need that for sleep. I'm just going to sleep. And so, yeah, you end up doing that. So then, I often will work weekends more often than I'd like, for a while. It just depends, because when I did, a couple of those projects, I was speaking at a couple conferences last year, and then did that Costa Rica thing, the reverse TV series we filmed in Costa Rica. And so I took sort of a week off for that. They let me do that, even though they didn't have to let me do that. It was very nice of them. But as a result, they sort of backloaded me with on call. So I was literally on call every other night for weeks on end, and I was on call every other weekend. So I was work the entire weekend and then be back on Monday as well. And that was a lot. But so the weekends that I don't work at the hospital, I'm at the clinic because those are only days off that I have. And then, on the nights that I'm not working at the hospital, I'm doing interviews, I'm talking to people or doing consultations and things like that. So it's pretty full on, it's every hour of every day is doing one of these 3 jobs. And so I have very little time for leisure and relaxing. And that's why I don't have time to go to the gym, because there just aren't enough hours in the day. And,
right.
And then sometimes if I'm not on call or whatever, it is nice to try to be able to get some sleep. It's good. Right. And try to catch up on that. So if I was not doing carnivore, this would not be happening. None of this would be happening. And which is sort of I wouldn't have anything to talk about anyway. So I wouldn't be doing all this side stuff. So that's okay. But, I wouldn't really be able to handle the neurosurgery side of it either, because that's a grueling schedule and it's very hard on people. There's like 3 people quit this year. Wow. just quit. There's a fellow that came over to do a fellowship, was here for like a week. He was like, nope, it's way too busy here. I'm out. And, wow. It just took off. And then like 2 residents just cut out, and they're like, nope, not for me, not doing this. And, that's par for the course. My intern year was roughly the same hours, and it was awful. It was bloody awful. And I was not eating this way. And, you slip into sort of bad habits, and, I never really drank too much, but like I started, you have some like on call and you're working all this time, and you get home and you just get like a whiskey, and you just have it, and you just sit down, you chill out, and you just sort of feel the stress sort of come off. You're like, oh, thank God. I needed something to just take that edge away. And, so it's not like I started drinking heavily, but like I would have a whiskey, a couple times a week or something like that. And I normally didn't drink at all. So that was a big change for me. And it was very stressful. That was the longest year of my life. Last, 3 years of neurosurgery flown by,
Wow.
3.5 years. I mean, it just has flown by. It's actually sort of like disconcerting. Like, where has the time gone? This is sort of upsetting. Like, I don't want all my time to be gone like this. It just goes very quickly because it's just, I'm able to just do it and you just get it done. And it is so busy that it just, you just lose track of days because they're just string together.
Wow. That's crazy. I again, I don't want to be the carnivore hype man, but it's a testament to carnivore. Like, the amount of work you're doing is nuts. I'm not even scratching the surface, but I've got, my wife and I purchased our small town movie theater. We've got
Nice.
my YouTube channel, and I run a small digital marketing agency. We built a dog kennel on our property, and we have an Airbnb. But a lot of these
Nice.
are more passive. But
Yeah.
I honestly, without carnivore, there's no way I would be doing all of these things. And I'm not even doing a fraction of what you're doing. That's just insane. But yeah, I'm not trying to overhype carnivore, but that is one of the biggest things that I didn't realize going into it is how much more productive I would be afterwards. We've got multiple projects going around, building stuff around the property and stuff going on between the different businesses. And it's just like my brain is so much clearer and I'm making wiser, smarter decisions that I wasn't making before. And the endurance too. I don't get tired like I would before. Before I'd be napping all the time, and now it's just like work, and it's no issue. But that's amazing what you're doing. I really appreciate everything you're doing and the content you're putting out there. It's been a big help to me. It's because like for me, I saw a carnivore YouTuber, just a regular guy, Dante from Frigno Freedom is his name, and his story was amazing. But I was still like, this is crazy. I'm not going to do it. But then when I saw videos like yours, like from a doctor doing neurosurgery, I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then just dig into more of your videos where you're referencing things and things like that. I think that's a huge help to so many people out there that are so uncertain about going down carnivore.
No, well, thanks, man. I'm glad they help. That just sort of reminded me of that, what I mentioned before, I saw this guy, he's a doctor and I think he's just trying to make a name for himself by trashing other people, which is not really a good way of doing things. But he made a short little post video sort of thing talking about that. And he mentioned Baker and a few others that saying, oh, these guys, these are the carny clowns or whatever. And these doctors, but you look at them and they're not, they have, black marks on their medical record and all that sort of stuff. So, that's what it is. These guys couldn't make it as a real doctor. And so they went sideways, which is completely untrue. And it's absolutely, slander to say that about these guys. And, but you notice that they sort of mentioned three guys. And, they didn't mention me. They didn't mention Dr. Kiltz. They didn't mention Dr. Ovadia. They didn't mention Dr. Jamie Seaman. They didn't mention all these other doctors all over the world. Dr. David Johnson is a neurosurgeon in Brisbane, and he's done multiple talks at low carb conferences and things like that. And all these doctors at the low carb conferences, all these, different, professors at Duke, like all these different people that are carnivore adjacent, I guess you could say.
Right.
It didn't mention any of those, of course. Didn't mention, Professor Palmer from Harvard, you know what I mean? And Palmer did carnivore. He did carnivore for a while. That was part of the keto sort of approach that he did for a while. I don't think he's full carnivore now. But he really focuses on keto, doing a lot of the heavy lifting for metabolic health and mitochondrial health. But he did carnivore, and he's a professor at Harvard. So, I mean, that's, so they're not talking about those guys. And so it is nice to see, more doctors and more, very, very successful doctors. I mean, Dr. Ovadia is a cardiothoracic surgeon. This guy does open heart surgeries, and he wrote a book all about, hey, do this and put me out of business. I don't want to keep doing these surgeries on you, and you're doing something that's going counter to your own interests, right? Mm-hmm. As a, from a monetary point of view, if people are getting healthy he's going to have to retire. He's going to have to switch tracks. He's going to have to just do consultations, which is going to pay him a fraction of what he gets paid for open heart surgeries. You get paid a lot for open heart surgeries. It is a very good business. But he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to have to do that. He doesn't want people to be sick. He doesn't want to have to do that for people. He wants people to be well. Dr. Kilt's the same thing. And, he's an OBGYN. He's been a carnivore for 10 years. And he's getting people pregnant and fixing their hormonal health. He's saying, hey, this works. I've been doing this for a decade with my patients and myself, and this works. So, trying to say that the only people promoting this are the sort of the outcast doctors is first of all just flagrantly false. But it's just it's harmful, because then people think, well, maybe I shouldn't believe this because, like the same thing. Well, you're not saying the right dietary advice, so you're not a nutritionist. You don't get to say it. And so, it's good that more people are coming out, and I'm glad that it's being influential. I'm glad people are seeing that. And I'm glad that, people like you are then going out making your own videos, getting 500,000 views in a month or so on that video, and influencing more people and encouraging them, to that, hey, there actually is hope. I don't have to live like this. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to be miserable. I don't have to have all these health issues, that I could just be reacting to the things that I'm eating. Not everyone will get these extreme reactions, but for the people that do, my God, how freeing is that to know that you don't have to do it and you don't have to live like that any longer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. You use the word hope. I think that's the best word, because I was hopeless. I know there's a lot of people out there hopeless at the end of the road, and you don't have to be hopeless. And yeah, all those doctors too. That's one thing that really convinced me, is like, you got to find your truth. You got to do your own research. And when you dig in and start watching some of your videos and some of the other videos, like Dr. Ovadio, you mentioned, what's in it for them, for these guys? You have these other diet fads where there's always like a product or something behind it. But it's like you said, Dr. Ovadio would be a lot better off just doing heart surgery than telling people to get off his operating room table. And so there's so many really, really smart people too. Like when I heard Dr. Jordan Peterson, I'm like, this guy is a pretty smart guy. And 5 years on carnivore, it's like, you got to pay closer attention to that. And you gotta just, if you're thinking about doing it, do your own research and go out there and find your own truth. Because when you start digging into some of these things, you're like, what's their motivation behind Jordan Peterson? Like, he's taking a risk just talking about that. I mean, he even puts like disclaimers on there, like, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but my entire life is 10 times better now that I've been doing carnivore for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's one thing that it is nice. A lot of people have actually come to this, from Jordan Peterson, and he does say that, it's like, look, he's quite loath to talk about it. Sometimes he's just like, look, I don't like this. I don't wish this on anyone, but like, I have to do it. I would love to go out and socialize and eat, crumpets and all these sorts of things with people, but I can't. I just can't do it. And so, this is what happened for me. And I don't know why, but I do know that this is the effects that I'm getting. So, even that's sort of nice that, he can at least say that, and he has a massive platform, of course. And so, and he's very influential with people. And so, it'd be nice. I remember I actually reached out to him early on, and just sort of like, but you're never going to see most of these messages that people send you, especially when you're sort of have millions and millions and millions of people following you and subscribing to you, things like that. And even at the time, I think he had like 1 million people following him. It was just like, he was talking about, I think he was on Joe Rogan. He's like, look, I don't know why this is working. I don't know, anything about it, but I just know that it does work for me. And I just sort of messaged him. I'm like, hey, I'd love to tell you exactly how it works, because I've looked into this a lot. And it would be nice to, maybe, talk to him about that sometime and say like, hey, here's why. And this is why it makes a big difference. And for you as a psychologist, this makes a huge difference. This will make a huge difference for your patients. And this will make a huge difference for a lot of people. And who knows? I mean, his daughter's obviously a huge advocate for it, and a huge voice for that.
Right.
And which is fantastic. I think he's sort of stayed out of it, just because he's got, he's got bigger fish to fry in a lot of senses. But I think that if he were to, sort of be convinced of, the sort of the biological nature of this and how much this can help people and how much this does help people, he might be more willing to talk about it. And if he did that, I think that would really, really help it take off.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I've watched a couple, I've researched for one of my YouTube videos just to try to find some follow-up, and he's done a couple little follow-ups, but he's always hesitant to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that really convinced me. He's literally the most famous psychologist. And he even said on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of his things that changed on Carnivore was he's completely stopped taking his antidepressants.
Yeah.
That really hit home for me. I was like, wow, this guy doing what he does, and he quit that, but yeah, he could help so many more people. Well, maybe it's just a matter of time. Although I know he's been doing it now for like 5 years or so. He's still doing it. So
yeah. Well, and even then, just talking about it, sometimes talking about, hey, look, this helped me. I can't say this is going to help anyone else. I don't know why it's doing it, but this helped me. That has actually inspired a ton of people to do it. And I've spoken to a lot of people that said that they were inspired by that, and that Jordan Peterson said that. So like, well, hey, he's talking about some of the same things that I have, and he did it, and I really respect him. So maybe I'll give it a try. And so, already he's having a huge influence on people. And I mean, he's having a huge influence on people in everything he's doing. I really like Jordan Peterson. I've been following Jordan Peterson since before he was Jordan Peterson. I found like just this odd random video on YouTube when all the craziness was going on, first really starting in the college campuses in the US, and just before, leading up to the 2016 election. And, there's that bill was it C19, C17, I think C17 or something like that up in Canada, that he did an original video about, and he just sort of spoke out about it. And people tried to just, lambaste him. And they picked a fight with the wrong guy, because dude knew what he was talking about. He did not say the things that he said for no reason. He was just saying, hey, this is a very dangerous precedent to go down when you're compelling speech, when you're forcing someone to say something that they don't agree with, or that they feel is wrong, or that they know is wrong. That's restricting speech, saying, hey, you're not allowed to say something. That's one thing. But if you're saying, no, you have to say this thing, that's a very different story. And he knows about it. And from a historical and psychological point of view, he's like, this is a bad idea. This is what like the Nazis did, and the Russian communists did, and the Chinese communists did, and all the other communist socialist hellholes that devolved into mass murder and slavery. This is how they started. They started controlling speech and compelling speech. And like, this is a bad road to go down. And he knew what he was talking about, and he wasn't a bigot, and he wasn't a bad person. And so when people tried to attack him, I saw one thing, he sort of gave his talk, and he was just surrounded by people, and they were just, going after him, calling him all these names, and he's like, no. And he was taking the time to talk to them, but I was just like, but he was not backing down. And I was just like, dude, this guy's good. This guy knows his stuff. This is really interesting. So I just kept trying to find more and more stuff on him. There wasn't much at that point, but I sort of, had him on my radar. So, I mean, I was watching things like he was in front of like the Canadian, Parliament, like those were the Jordan Peterson videos I started watching were them, because those are the only ones who were around. He was testifying in front of the Parliament, saying, hey, this is a bad idea. This is not good. And going up there with other people. So I've been a big fan of his, and I think he does absolutely amazing work. And I just absolutely just love everything he's doing. It's just an added bonus that the man is, smart enough to realize that carnivore is the way to go too. So, you feel sort of, a little more of a kinship with him there as well.
Right.
I don't know him,
likewise, I've seen some of those earlier videos, and it was kind of to what we were talking about earlier. It took a lot of bravery for him to come out and do that stuff. And what was the motivation behind it? He was just being honest. He was being honest, and he was being brave, and he was sticking his neck out. That kind of lends itself to people that end up, I think, being carnivores. But then when you see that he's doing carnivore too, it's that same sort of, he's got that character of doing that. So yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of his stuff over the years as well. And yeah, his Joe Rogan sort of testimony too was one of the things I watched early that really kind of helped push me over as well.
Nice. Yeah. And, well, it's, he's just doing good work in general. So, it'd be great to get him, to just speak out and just say, hey, this is really good. And maybe even recommend it to his patients and see how that goes, because, it really helps with mental health issues.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
that's something that, there's a number of people. There's Dr. Rachel Brown in the UK, up in Scotland. She's doing this with her patients and reversing serious mental health disorders. Dr. Georgia Eade, Dr. Palmer, obviously, and many more. And other people are sort of taking this information and knowledge to heart, and they're incorporating that. Some people have mental health facilities that they're sort of helping people out, and they're putting them on like different diets, and they're saying, wow, this is really helping my patients too. So it's just growing and it's branching out, and it's just it's just really helping people. And it's just really nice to see that this is growing. And I had no doubt it was going to grow, because like the truth will out. Like this works, and this is biologically appropriate, and this is and that's why it works. You're eating what you're supposed to eat, and you're not eating things that are harming you. Problems go away. And people don't realize that a lot of these problems are caused by the fact that we're eating things that we shouldn't, and we're not getting enough of what we should. And then you see that stark contrast, and all of a sudden people are like, yep, this is what I'm doing. And then other people around them see the benefits, and their family starts doing it too. And then they start making documentaries, and it goes on from there.
Yeah.
So about the documentary though, so what exactly, you say you just want to follow certain people. So is the idea to find people that are willing to go on a carnivore diet, or maybe have recently started a carnivore diet, and then follow their progress and see exactly what this does for them in different sorts of illnesses and ailments? Or what did you
precisely? Yeah. So my big thing is, I don't believe I can change anyone, and I don't think I should. Like, hey, you should do carnivore diet. I think the best way is to just put that example out there. So that's kind of what I've been doing with my YouTube channel. And like I said, I did that video, the 30-day update. I've done several videos since then. And it's just the reaction and people saying, I have people now on day 86 who are like, I saw your 30-day video 56 days ago. And I jumped in, I started doing carnivore, and I could just show you dozens of comments of people like, my whole life's completely changed. They're like, you were right. I thought you were lying or making this up, but they were like, you were right over and over again. So I wanted to do that on a bigger scale, but that's the idea behind the movie. So I set up a website. It's carnivoredietmovie.com. And I said, if you want to register and participate, I want to follow real people and show their examples, not just people with obesity, but also depression, anxiety, stomach issues, IBS, things like that. And then, ideally follow them for a year, starting carnivore, middle of carnivore, and then show the result at the end. And then have some good doctors on there as well, which is, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you were interested in participating in any way whatsoever, it would be a huge honor. I think it would really help as well.
Oh, 100%. I'd love to. And happy to help coach them and talk to them and because you can have teething issues. Most people do pretty well, and other people don't, and they have problems that come up. But generally you can find different tweaks and things like that. Maybe they're including things that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they're not eating enough. Maybe they're eating at weird times of day. Maybe they're not getting enough fat. Maybe they're, sometimes people have like heavy heartbeats and they think, oh my God, I'm having heart palpitations or something's wrong. And I think, and you check their, EKG, ECG, and it's perfectly fine. It's normal. It's just that they're noticing their heart is much more beating heavily, but it's not out of rhythm. It's not out of pace. It's just beating. It's noticeable, and that's okay. That's something that happens. It's not dangerous as long as it's, it isn't an arrhythmia, and and it settles down and it goes away. I think it has something to do with ketones, because your heart, your cardiac myocytes run better on ketones. That's a preferred energy source. So all of a sudden you start ramping up your ketones. All of a sudden your whole part just going, yes, let's do this, and it's just thumping, and that's fine. And then your body sort of gets used to this and accustomed to it, and then it sort of feels more normal. You don't notice that. I mean, I noticed that. I had that. And, I had people comment, like, I can hear your heartbeat, and
quiet that thing down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not from like across the room, but if they were like, sitting close to me or something like that, or like their head on my chest, and it was just like, I can, like, this is like really loud. Like, what is going on here? And, so it's, it's normal. And so, just even being able to put people's mind at ease and just say like, that's okay. That's all right. It'll go away. And just sort of coaching people through that. I find it can help a lot. And usually get through that sort of teething issue, and they will just off to the races after that. So
Right.
Yeah, 100%. If you would like that, I would love to be part of that. I'm happy to talk to these guys and coach them and work them through that. Definitely.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's put a big smile on my face for sure. Yeah. So we did the website, and we have a form on there if people want to participate, and it hasn't been up that long. There's already 100 people, and they're actually sending in videos, and they're talking about their different issues. Because again, it's not just obesity, it's depression and anxiety and those other things. So we're already off to the races, and I'm meeting with a documentary film director actually this afternoon.
Awesome.
And we already have the first part out, but my biggest thing is I want to do if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. I want to do the best job we possibly can. And
Yeah.
I want to ease into it, but I want to cover everything with Carnivore. I don't want to overwhelm people, but I want to ease into it and not just be like, hey, you should eat meat and this is why, but get into the explanation of why this is how ancestrally we've eaten forever. And I always give people that analogy. It's like, if you look at how the standard American diet is right now, if you look at that on a football field, someone else used this analogy. It wasn't me, but I think it's such a good one. If you look at it on a football field and you take a little slice of paper or one blade of grass at the end, that's how we've been eating the standard American diet. And everybody during that little blade of grass has obesity and diabetes and depression and anxiety. It's all just going through the roof. But that whole time before that, people ate like I'm eating right now, but I'm the crazy one. And so that's part of it. I want to convey that in the documentary and just kind of ease into it, but just hey, like, this is irrefutable if you look at these people's examples. That's just been the mind-blowing part with my YouTube videos and watching others, is just how life-changing this is for everybody. It's one of the weird things, because there's so many other diets and things out there. On Carnivore, it's like every video and stuff you look at, it's just comment after comment. I've never found one where someone's like, yeah, I tried, it didn't work. I gained some weight, or I fell off, or it just didn't work for me. It's just amazing results, one after the other. So I want to share some of that in the documentary, but really explain it and get into some of the science behind it and get some experts like yourself in there. So yeah, really, really excited for it. We're making some really good progress already on it.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that you're doing that, because I think that'd be so amazing. Getting a documentary like that out on, God, if you get it out on Netflix, that'd be amazing. But anything like that, if you get it just out into a mainstream, platform like that, that would just be fantastic. So yeah. And the world needs more of that stuff, so it's, well, wish you all the best. And please do let me know if there's any way I can. 100% happy to do that. If you want to do sort of, interviews and everything like that as well, talking about, the science behind it and the medical outcomes and things like that, and have someone help, the patients and people going through it. 100% happy to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Be in touch soon. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, Kerry, I thank you very much for your time. I think we've gone nearly 2 hours, so I want to be respectful of your time. But thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. It was an absolute pleasure. And where can people find you and follow your stuff and and get involved with the movie if they want to?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is Homestead How, and I've got a bunch of carnivore videos on there, including the 30-day one I talked about, but kind of just been doing carnivore videos lately because it's been amazing. And other than that, it's carnivoredietmovie.com. If you wanted to participate, there's a little form on there. If you want to help support it or share it, there's some stuff on there as well. So Carnivore Diet Movie is the other one, but yeah, that's it. And yeah, thank you so much for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it. Like I said, without you and some of the other docs out there, I never would have started on Carnivore. And it's not only changed my whole life, but I get emotional talking about it, but it's changed the life of two of my daughters at this point. It's
Uh-huh.
changed the whole dynamic of my family. So it's life changing. So thank you for being brave and going out there and doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're very, very welcome. That's absolutely amazing that you and your family are doing so much better. I really, really, really appreciate hearing those stories. So thank you very much for making your voice heard and for using your platform for good and not evil, and telling people about carnivore diet and your experiences with it, because I think it's just so important. I mean, I've just seen this help so many people and really change their lives in such positive ways that I just wish this for everybody. I wish that everyone could do this and just see, just how great that they can feel. And then we could just get on with life. There's so much more to life than worrying about being sick and taking pills and feeling miserable and depressed and angry all the time. It changes our personal interactions. It changes our professional interactions and experiences. It changes the entire course and direction of our lives. Like you said, if you had come across this 15 years ago, you'd have a very different relationship with your family. You might be in a very different place right now. I think we all would. And, when I came back around to this and realized that, like, I could have felt like this my whole life. I felt absolutely robbed. And so I want people to be able to get back their health, which they deserve. That's their birthright, is good health. And, most people can attain that. Obviously, there are some genetic issues or congenital issues that don't have a workaround, but you can still optimize wherever you're at with diet and nutrition. But the natural state of humanity is one of health. And so if we're sick, and if we're sick as an individual or we're sick as a society, something's going wrong. And you can take that to the bank. Animals in nature are healthy. They're not getting diabetes and cancer and lung conditions and heart attacks and all these sorts of things. They're just not. They're very healthy. They're very robust. And they're running around all the time and they're all healthy and exercise. That doesn't explain animals in the zoo. Animals in the zoo aren't running around. They live in a box the size of this room. Right. It's the definition of a sedentary lifestyle. And yet they enjoy these same health benefits that you see in wild animals as well. So it's not that. It's that, you're supposed to be healthy. And so if you're not healthy, something's going wrong. So look in your life, look around you, and try to figure that out. And diet can definitely be one of those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Kerry, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.